Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight, well, we have a full house, okay? Playing third base, we have David Meadows, all right? Shortstop is Adrian Pasdar. Second base, Chris Margettis. And first base, Mike Carey. And tonight's pitcher is Max Martini.
Yeah.
How you guys doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Oh man, it's a treat. I've never done as you know, I've never done a 5-person panel before. Max emailed me this afternoon. He's like, "Can we put two more people on?" I'm like, "Oh shit, I've never done a 5-person. Let me see if I can make this screen real estate work." And we had a little bit of adventure trying to put everybody in the right box, but we got it all correct. So thank you so much, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to pose this question to Chris, Mike, or Max, whichever one of you guys can best answer this question. Just go ahead and jump in. The whole Manson brothers idea. Explain to our audience what exactly that is and who came up with it? Who is ever the best suited to answer?
Good luck with that one.
Well, Mike, if you'd like to go, or I can field it. That's up to you. But
the Manson brothers idea came up in 2014 when I was out in Hollywood visiting Max, and Chris and I used to be professional wrestlers together in Chicago locally, and I was actually a professional wrestler named Skull Manson, and I had a partner named Ripper Manson, and Chris was just coming into the business when I was just getting out to pursue other things. And I said, hey, this guy would make a great replacement. So he became Stone Manson, and he became the third Manson brother. So I left, and then fast forward to 2014, we decided we were going to do this movie. And I said, listen, I got this idea, but I need you to do it with me. And here's the trick. No matter how ludicrous it seems, we're going to play it straight. It's like, I'm in. So I wrote this thing around these two characters named Skull and Stone Manson as this aging tag team. And so we built the movie around that. And that's how that got started. We just thought the backdrop of the, underbelly of the independent wrestling circuit would be a really interesting world to build, where these characters would operate. Something a little bit different than people are used to seeing. And they're idiots, so it was...
Now, Max, you have been brought in to direct several Manson Brothers films. How did you get roped into this?
We had pictures.
Series that we were shooting in Chicago and became buddies. And prior to the Manson Brothers movie, I had done a movie, directed my first movie called Sergeant Will Gardner, which was about a veteran that was suffering. And so the intent behind that movie was to raise awareness and monetary support for veterans. So it was emotionally taxing, and it was a very serious film. And when Mike and Chris brought me the script, I was skeptical because the following up my last film with a zombie comedy was a little bit of a risk. But when I read it, like Mike, the script is hilarious, and I love the idea that it was set in this world of wrestling, because the two worlds, to my knowledge, hadn't been addressed together in a story yet. So that was intriguing. And then additionally, I'm not really a fan of the genre. I am now. I didn't come into it as one. So there was this challenge artistically to kind of see if I could take an art degree that I earned as a youngster and put it to work and come up with the horror elements and come up with, the action in the wrestling sequences and these flamboyant characters, and find the right level of buffoonery. And it was kind of like this ridiculously and beautifully orchestrated mess of a So yeah, so that's why I tackled it. Really, I mean, to tell you the truth, it was just a big challenge for me.
And you happy you took on that challenge?
I am happy because one of the things that I was able to do was bring in all my buddies, and which these guys. I mean, Adrian has been in the business forever. He's led his own movies. He's a pro. B.B. Sweeney has been in the business forever. Chris and Mike are buddies. Dave and I met on Captain Phillips. Dave is a former Navy SEAL who actually is an accomplished actor and trained as an actor once he got out of the military. So he has one of our leads. He's amazing in it. And so we put this great group of talented actors together, and we just had a really great time, man. And it shows on screen, and I like this to a Dumb and Dumber type comedy, and I think we're going to give Dumb and Dumber a run for its money. I promise. Really, I believe.
Now, Adrian, you have this huge resume. I mean, like Max said, you have been in this business for a long time. I've been seeing you on the screen for a while. What was it like for you coming and working on a script that Mike and Chris wrote? Max was directing. Max just explained you guys all know each other from here and there. What was it like actually working with these group of guys?
It was great. I mean, every time you show up on the set, it's a brand new, the odds reset. It's like roulette. You never know. But, going in with a guy like Max I've known for so long, and the cadre, the group of people he's going to put together, I had faith and confidence in him. So it was great. It was really exciting to be able to come in on a show like this with the guys like this and the story like it is, and have the freedom to just mess around like we did. And, sometimes you take a chance and it doesn't work. This time it did.
Yeah, it definitely did.
You know what the big chance was is that these are like this cast. If you were going to plan a trip to Las Vegas, these are the guys that you want to go, right? So this movie could have gone one of two ways.
Yeah.
And the only way it could have gone south is possibly if we shot it in Las Vegas. But there was a bit of a gamble. The shenanigans were going to be just too much to control.
It's like the real life Hangover, the Hangover crew behind and in front of the camera.
We did stimulate the Santa Fe economy regularly, especially on the weekends.
Big dent in Santa Fe, that's for sure.
I can imagine how much fun you guys had after the days, you were done shooting for the day, and you probably just went out for a couple of drinks, hung out, and I can only just imagine. Now, David, you like Max said, you were a Navy SEAL, and to go from a Navy SEAL, by the way, thank you for your service. To go from a Navy SEAL into acting, that's like, damn, that's quite a flip. How did that happen for you? How did you go from the armed services and an elite squad like the Navy SEALs into being an actor?
Well, first, thank you very much. I thought everybody basically did this. I thought it was like the way we did it. You get out of SEAL teams, you get a book deal, and you get all your stuff, and whatever. Actually, first of all, Mike is a vet as well. Mike was a Marine Corps, so
thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Honor. Thank you, Dave.
It was an interesting transition, and I say that the only reason I've had any of the success that I've had right now is because I had the great fortune of having great friends and mentors and advisors very early on. Guys like Max, like you mentioned, we met on a Captain Phillips, and I've been acting for probably like a year and a half. I hadn't gone to drama school yet. I hadn't done really much of anything. And having Max kind of in my corner to steer me right was absolutely, I can't thank him and all the other people that did that for me enough, because the reality is that so much of this industry is, frankly, this is full of so much bullshit. And, people having no idea what's going on, or giving people bad advice, or any of this other kind of thing. And it's very frustrating for people. And I honestly never had that. I had just incredibly smart, well-intentioned people that were in my corner from the start.
And you brought up Captain Phillips, which is an amazing movie. It's based on a true story and what happened. I remember that very, very well. When you are picked and you book roles now for movies or TV or whatever, do you see yourself getting typecasted for like that military person, that Navy SEAL?
Early on, and then unfortunately, it still does come in there. And actually, it's one of the things Max and I have talked a lot about. It's one of the things where I'm always honored whenever anybody offers to have me to be a part of their project. I do try to steer away from any of that kind of stuff. The military guys, the first responders, any of that kind of stuff, because you're absolutely right. It is a big typecasting. There is, a lot of assumptions and things like that go by that. And, I've kind of been able to build a career of people that have believed in me or whatever, and given me incredible opportunities like Mike and Chris and Max did in this movie to play something that you wouldn't really think that I would be playing. And it's built my career, really. I mean, it's just one of those things.
That's awesome. Now, Chris, my fellow Greek.
Yeah. Yes.
How are you doing?
Faristo.
He doesn't speak Greek. Don't let him fool you.
Oh, I know. He's been speaking to my brother, and my brother's been filling me in. He's Greek. His family immigrated to the United States back in the early 1900s. So, as opposed to me, where my mom, Chris, and my dad, before he passed away 10 years ago, 50 years in this country, and they can't put together an English sentence. They can't.
My father was the same. He was born in Italy, spent 50 years in the United States. He could put a sentence together, but it was very broken and lots of,
Yeah, my mom... My mom watches this show religiously every night, doesn't have a clue as to what I'm saying. She's like, I like watching you laugh. I'm like, okay, Mom.
That's a wonderful story. My papu was he spoke very little. I don't believe he could read. God rest his soul, he was a wonderful man. But he owned, 2 restaurants. I mean, it's amazing what you can accomplish through hard work. I'm sure your parents are the same way, and yet not having that great of a grasp. It's pretty amazing.
I was born and raised in New York City, and the Greeks and diners. Almost every diner in New York City.
In Chicago.
Yeah, and Chicago. It's
Chicago
Greek
too.
owned.
Absolutely.
It's Greek owned. So, Chris, you and Mike wrote the Manson Brothers Zombie Midnight Massacre. How did you guys work together? Whose idea was it? How did you guys... I always find it interesting to find out how 2 writers work together to put together one screenplay.
Well, it's kind of interesting because that's actually evolved a little bit, because we've written the second film as well, and that changed a little bit, honestly, when we did it compared to what we did the first go around. The first time we kind of got together and came up with the idea, starting with, and quite evolved immensely from the beginning to, even while we were shooting, it was evolving immensely. The process the first time, I got to give a lot of credit to Mike. He really did a ton of the grunt work, for lack of a better term. I think that's a Marine term too, somewhat. So it applies to him directly. And I would kind of come in and put a lot of the finishing touches on stuff, or dabble around and mix it in. This last time, through the miracle of collaboration on the writing software, we really kind of got into it and typed through a lot more of it directly. So even that is evolving a lot. But one of the cool things about the second time too was we were able to just kind of act it out, because one of the really weird things is it's one thing to write something on a page and then turn around and hear it or read it. A lot of times it sounds completely different. Most of the time, not in a good way when it sounds completely different. But I think we have a great synergy, and I think a lot of it's because of wrestling. we think a lot alike, and a lot of times we kind of know, the background of what each of us is thinking, and it's been nice. It's been a lot of fun.
If I could add to that too, like I think we work really well together, and it really is a 50-50 thing. And that does go back to wrestling, because in the wrestling business, you have to trust the guy that you're working with. And there's a lot of yielding that you have to do. Like, and we as men, especially like we're all alpha males, it's very hard to yield. You don't want to give up the territory or anything, but you have to be able to be open to everybody else's ideas and stuff like that. And we just work really well like that together. It's like, if he comes up with an idea, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's see how that works. If I come up with something, he's like, okay, cool. Let's see how that works. And then we sort of, through trial and error, we come up with all the bits and stuff, and he's got particular strengths and I have particular strengths, and we balance each other out really well. So it works.
What's interesting, I'd love to jump in, is like, when you say alpha males, this entire cast, for those of you that aren't aware who's in the movie yet, Randy Couture is one of our stars, Baz Rutten, who's a big, MMA fighter, and all these guys that we brought together are all these alpha males, are very full, very kind of big personalities. And in order for them to support each other's characters, you really have to check your ego at the door, or the movie doesn't work. Yeah. And in Hollywood, it's rare. I mean, there's always somebody. There's always an ego. There's always somebody that puts a stench on the production, that I find. And we really didn't get that in the show. We got very lucky. Did we lose Adrian?
No. It looks like we lost him. Hopefully he'll come back.
You know what's funny about that, Max, is we were talking about it before. I have never been on a movie set where it was so easy to develop that trust and that symmetry, and you would just think with so many, badass dudes running around on there, or whatever the case is, with legacies behind them. I mean, like Randy and Boz. I mean, good fun. And everybody was the kindest, most down to earth, genuine team players. There was no anything. I mean, except for you, but I mean, nothing else. Everybody else was fine.
So I'm going to ask this question to Mike. Okay, yeah. Mike. The Manson Brothers Zombie Midnight Massacre is...
Midnight Zombie Massacre.
Yes, sorry. I mean, could you not have picked a more simpler title?
There's a story behind that one.
I want to hear that.
Okay, so I'm a big, huge fan of early 70s European horror films, which basically come from two places at that time, Italy and Spain. Mm-hmm. And they often had these very long titles, like The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, or The Weird Midnight Horror Show, or any number of them. So I wanted to do a throwback title, and I wanted to have the Manson Brothers title be first, because then it indicated that this is the Midnight Zombie Massacre, but that the Manson brothers would go on to do other films. It was going to be like an anthology of stories. So that's where that came from. And I figured with a title this long and wacky, people would tend to remember it. Even if they remembered it discombobulated, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's that. It's better than naming the movie They.
Yeah, it does leave an impression.
Or whatever,
It does leave an impression. Now, Chris, this movie's coming out September 10th, okay?
Correct.
I'm assuming it's coming out on video on demand, right?
It's both VOD and there's a 10-city theatrical release, which may be expanding from there.
Nice.
But it'll release on VOD and in theaters the same day, both on September 10th.
Nice.
Amazon, YouTube, Voodoo.
Cool. Very cool. So, Chris, somebody walks up to you and says, this movie, the Manson Brothers Zombie Midnight Massacre. Did I get it correct, Mike? I got it.
That's okay.
So this movie's coming out September 10th. What the hell is this about? Because the log line in the movie reads, sometimes you need the bad guys. Something like that.
Well, basically time. So in the film, we're the most notorious hated tag team in the world, and Time to Root for the Bad Guys is basically, it's kind of up to us to save the world. Which, by the way, if there's two guys you didn't want to save the world, it would be us for sure. Yeah, so it's effectively like you get these two guys who, by mistake, are in a situation that they're in no way, shape, or form prepared for. But by hook and by crook, it kind of handles itself in a bunch of different ways. That's exactly what it is. It's like Max said, it's kind of Dumb and Dumber or Laurel and Hardy or something to that effect.
I think it's Clerks. It's Clerks meets like 28 Days Later. That's what I think.
That's an interesting analogy right there.
One thing I will say, though, I have to say this, and again, this is credit to Max Martini, who I can't say enough great things about as far as directing this film and just as a human being. But unlike other films in this genre or in multiple genres that are horror, zombie, comedy. When it's time to be funny, it's funny. But when it's time to be horrific and zombie, it's horrific and zombie. And the two don't really, intersect much. It manages to really toe the line between both.
Cool.
I think it covers a lot of bases for people. And that's one of the things I'm proud of about it. And again, that's a testament to Max.
Nice.
Yeah, the zombie attacks are very gruesome. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of body parts flying, and we went all out on those, but yeah, the comedy plays throughout. I think during the zombie attacks, you don't realize how ridiculous they're so charged that you kind of lose track of where you were comedically, and you get in, and then you're back in it,
Yeah.
pretty quick after that, but yeah.
Now, Adrian, like I said,
I still can't stop looking at that backdrop, Max. What's going on?
It is kind of distracting. It's Windows like 95 or Windows.
I was just gonna say it's like a DOS pattern.
Now, Adrian, I said, your career is very long. Is this the first film involving zombies that you've ever done?
No, I did one called The Killing Box with Martin Sheen.
Okay.
It's a Civil War set time frame piece about Southern. It's complicated. Zombies, yeah. No,
zombies.
Yeah.
I want to watch that. I never even heard of it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man.
I should say I heard of it. I didn't know it was about zombies.
Do you remember Adrian from Near Dark?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if those are. What those are.
So, I mean, just going back to Adrian and the question and horror, you've done a variety of stuff. I mean, do you particularly enjoy doing horror more than any other genre? Or are you just wide open to anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the genre itself, when it's done well, can be really fun. Really rewarding. It's a shame. It's a really easy one to mess up. It's also a very difficult one to get right. So a lot of people do it, and a lot of people fail.
Yeah, it is complicated, especially if you're doing a zombie comedy. There have been some big successes going back to like Return of the Living Dead, and then more recently Shaun of the Dead. So there have been some great zombie comedies out there. Now, David, what is your feeling in being in horror movies? Do you enjoy the genre? Are you a fan of the genre itself?
Yeah, I really am. And before I think I did one, I don't know if I was such. I liked watching them, but kind of like what Adrian said, there's such a huge gamut of what horror movies are. And there's some that are like, just throwing enough blood and sex on it, and it's like, people will watch it or something, but it doesn't make it a good or a cool movie that you would want to be a part of. And then there's some that are just legendary, that are so good there. And when you're involved in an actual well done, fun, and then I guess, for lack of a better term, like a deeper one that isn't just thrown together where people are just trying to be like, story doesn't matter. It's just, like just more sex, more blood, keep going,
Yeah.
It can be a ton of fun. So I'm definitely a big fan of being in them at this point.
Awesome.
I look to do more.
You know what? It's an amazing thing. I think you guys will agree is how quickly you become used to the fact that you're between takes, seeing people covered in blood and dismembered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you're sitting there at lunch with some guy that's got no arm and his eyes missing, and I mean,
all pulled out, and it's like
just how quickly that becomes like, oh, well, I know I'm on set. That's cool.
I can imagine what it was like in like 1941 when Lon Chaney Jr. would show up at the commissary in the Wolfman makeup.
Exactly.
And like people would just treat him like he belonged there. It was no big deal.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, going back to the 40s and the 30s, Max, being the director, it's your job on how you want to balance character storytelling to blood, guts, and gore. There have been some great movies that had great character stories and threw in when it was necessary, the blood and the gore. Was that challenging for you when it came to this movie? Is it challenging for you overall as a director, trying to find that nice balance between the two?
Well, we did have, when we started in pre-production, we did work on that balance a little bit in the script. And we, like Mike and Chris and I got together and, I was saying, guys, it's like, because one of the things that I wanted to focus on was making sure that the ride was continuous and that it didn't stall, so that, there were moments where I was like, we need an attack here. We need to bring the zombies in earlier. There needs to be more character, here. We're following, 5 or 6 different characters throughout this film, but at the same time, it's a zombie movie and it needs to, so we've got to feed the audience, the right level of comedy and the right level of zombie, for lack of a better word. And so we did work on that. And, and I look, I had a really wonderful introduction to the genre, and that I did Pacific Rim with Guillermo del Toro.
Another great movie.
Oh my God. But when I got that part, like I said, not having been a fan, I went, okay, I better figure out what he's done. And, I had seen Pan's Labyrinth, which was a masterful film. And I started going back into the Hellboy movies. I went back to Kronos and The Devil's Backbone and watched all these, his earlier works. And he really was so creative in his designs and his monsters and the way he directed and orchestrated his horror elements. And so, that was a bit of an inspiration. And, go back to your question, sure, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of balance in it. It's a big focus in my division.
Now, this question is for both Mike and Chris. Now, zombies have been given to us as an audience in a variety of different ways. You have the Romero slow crawlers. I call them snail zombies. Then you have the Rage zombies from 28 Days Later, World War Z, Black Summer. Which kind of zombie did you guys pick for this movie?
Well, we picked the Rage zombies for one reason and one reason only, because we didn't have the budget to make them look like hot corpses. So I'm a big fan of zombie films going back to when I was a kid. I like the snail zombies and I like the running I like them all.
Yeah, me too.
And I really there's a movie from 1979 called Zombie by Lucio Fulci where I think have the most realistic looking corpse zombies ever. There's I don't know what to think about the movie, but the zombies are horrifying. And if we're not going to make them look like that, I didn't want to do them. And we knew, even before Max got involved, we're like, well, we're never going to get the budget to do that kind of stuff. So we decided, well, it's better to make them infected and make them rage zombies. So that's what we did.
That surprises me because, I mean, I get the whole slow zombies that get more camera time. You got to really pay attention to the detail on the makeup. But I would think just the angry zombies, I don't know, I always thought they would be more expensive.
They were very expensive. Mikey, I can't. We had an amazing visual effects company.
Oh, totally.
And yeah, I think our zombies are pretty.
I think what Mike's referring
to.
I think what Mike means is when you have the snail zombie, which I'm a huge fan of myself because I grew up on Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and those. In our mind, it required so many more people to have that horde of zombies because in those films, the idea is don't get trapped inside of a bunch of them. You can weave your way around. Yeah. They don't move very fast, but all of a sudden, if there's 40 of them, you got a big problem. And so in our mind, when we were thinking of that was the reasoning. Was just it was going to take that many more people.
We didn't really know if it was going to cost more or not. We were just we were throwing a dart.
More bodies.
Yeah,
it was the thought. But to Max's point, the effects that we have on the rage zombies in this film are like
our zombie effects are awesome.
It's insane. When we first screened the film, the first time I saw it, that was the one thing that jumped out at me the most. Like the zombies looked incredible.
Yeah, they really look cool. And so that's Max. I think that's what you were trying to get at, and our zombie effects are amazing, really.
Yeah, this is it's a just shy of $2 million horror film, and
which is that's a good budget.
It's a great budget.
Very good.
Our visual effects department went way beyond their budgetary restrictions and what they gave us. So.
Oh, awesome. I mean, okay, now to David, all right? You were a Navy SEAL. You have been probably in some scary-ass situations. When it comes to the snail zombies or the rage zombies, okay? Putting yourself in, your character's position, would you rather take on a herd of 10 snails zombies or one or two rage zombies that are up your ass in like less than a second?
Well, I think the scariest thing in the world was Max on set after a day when things just hadn't gone well. That was like the worst of all of them. So
that's a rage zombie.
Yes, a rage zombie. I mean, you don't want to mess with the rage zombies, man. Those things are fast and they're like all over the place. They're like the rabid dogs or the ex-girlfriend of the zombie world. You don't want that. So
I'll take the stumbler
zombie. Yeah, they just run away and like hit them with a rock or something.
Absolutely, me too. The snail zombies, they don't really scare me, but I liked World War Z. I'm not saying it's the best movie with rage zombies, but I liked World War Z. I mean, it was a big budget, film and all that, and it didn't spare any expense. And if you read the stories, they had to spare a lot of expenses and reshoot the whole ending to that. But I mean, those just absolutely freaked me out and whatnot. Chris, also, did you, going back to the way the zombies have been presented to us as an audience over the years, did you guys try to throw into the story something different that as an audience we may not have seen in regards to zombie, maybe in the origin of the zombie or anything else?
Well, definitely the origin, I think, although I think we were much more specific with the origin. Because it's a part of the wrestling world, we came up with the idea of making the kind of genesis of the virus a black market, I'll say foreign PED that one of our friends is taking. Okay. And from that, he contracts this virus that then mutates him and he begins to spread it throughout the arena. So I think from the genesis standpoint of it, yeah, we went a little bit different. And then we present you with bodybuilder zombies and people who are not bodybuilder zombies guys in sausage outfits that are zombies. I mean, there's all manner of zombies available that you'll find in the film. But again, the great part about it is that each and every one of them is extremely brutal. You'll forget whatever comedic part there is when you actually watch them dismember and maim people. Which, if you're into that thing, it's particularly wonderful to watch. So
that's
Adrian. One of the things that I was loving that was happening in pre-production is like when I was calling these actors, these buddies of mine, and like Adrian, for instance, I was like, "Listen, dude, your character is going to be high throughout this entire film. And you're sucking on a nitrous bottle." He was like, "Let's go." This other guy, Luis Fortunata, who was in my other movie, I called him up and I said, "Luis, listen, I got a great role for you, but you have to wear a chorizo outfit." He was like, "Oh, bro." Anyway, it's just a reaction. But everybody, Adrian was brilliant.
Now, Adrian, how did this role come your way? Did your agent get you the audition? Did you have the audition, the script? How did it all work out for you to be in this film?
Max made me fly in and audition. It was very
You made
strange.
Adrian audition?
Yeah, I had to fly in, and it was like 2 a.m, and we were on the roof of the hotel, and I didn't understand what was going on.
We're like, can't you get anybody else?
I was like, oh yeah, I was like, can't somebody like Mason Reed, somebody do this? I mean, who happens to be Max's stand-in? Max called me up into the goodness of his heart, and also that in fact nobody else would do it. It was just an easy choice. I mean, your buddy calls you and says, "Come in." I don't think any one of us here would say anything but of course.
That's a funny story. Flew him in at 2 a.m. Now, Max, IMDb has you listed as having some voiceover work in this movie. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. There's a great scene where Chris and Mike's characters they're actually living in these trailers behind the venue, and we go back into their homes, and they're with their girls, and we have this kind of Walt Disney moment, which is really good. But we need a doctor because Chris's character is going through anger management therapy. So I did it just so he had someone to react to, and then we ended up using it. And well, I do play a role.
Plays Dr. Chu.
Dr. Chu.
Yeah.
Do you
probably the best work ever too?
Now, Max, as your career moves forward, do you want to spend a lot more time behind the camera as opposed to being in front of it?
Yeah, I'm trying to make that transition right now. In fact, so the Manson Brothers is my second movie. I have an offer to do another one before the end of the year, and then I have a script that I wrote that's a World War II period film that I'm looking to direct. The financing is pretty much together for it. So
awesome. Now, Max, I want to talk to you about one of your former movies that you were a part of, 13 Hours. Great film. Along the same lines as like a Captain Phillips film. What was your experience in shooting 13 Hours?
It was amazing. I mean, one of the best experiences during that whole process was being able to work with the actual guys that survived the attack in Benghazi. So, they were in Malta with us, and I got to really collaborate with the guy that I played, and all of us felt like that was a story that needed some clarification, that needed to be told. It was a horrific event, and it shouldn't have happened. So and I agree with you. I think it's one of Michael Bay's best movies.
It is
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Those guys. It was just like just a bunch of them stayed behind and they fought to protect when they were just so outnumbered. So Dave, going forward in your career, what would you like to do more of? Do you want, as an actor, do you want to expand and see, what more stuff you're capable of and push your limits, keep pushing yourself as an actor, challenging yourself to see what you can achieve and conquer?
Absolutely. I'm always looking to figure out what the most challenging, vulnerable, just kind of offline role that we can actually start to work in and jump into. The farther away that I think that it is from Dave on a daily basis, the more attracted that I ultimately am to it. And now we've actually I'm now also producing stuff, and I have my own production company and things like that. And some of the movies that we have slated to go here in the next 2 years or so are going to give you the chance to do that and really delve into some just completely unique work where that ultimately I probably would never be seen in an audition, actually, or selected to come in for, and kind of spread my wings on that.
Really manly, man. Is it?
What's that, Max? I couldn't hear your shit talk about it.
Characters that you wouldn't normally get selected for, like really manly men.
Right. Yeah.
I will tell you that the character Dave plays in the movie, Carson, is as far away from Dave as you could get. I mean, he really kills it. And if you know Dave well, which I'm fortunate to, it's as far away from Dave's real personality and as you could get, and he just kills it. He's so funny and he's so odd, and you really believe that he's this character who's also based on an actual guy that Chris and I know, which is even funnier. But I just wanted
to it physical comedy. He was really great. Fumbling with his weapon. I mean, he's obviously the
guy's a sniper. He knows how to use a gun.
Sniper. But yeah, no, the physical comedy that you brought to the character is wonderful.
I just wanted to mention, since we were talking about 13 Hours, all the great work Max does with veterans, and he really does a lot for us veterans, and he does it from his heart, especially the guys that have traumatic brain injury and stuff like that, and he really puts his heart into it, and that comes from a sincere place. It's no BS. He's not putting on airs. That's really him. So again, thanks, Max.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
On that note, just to mention, we were able to put 4 veterans and leads in this film on camera. So Dave is a veteran, Mike's a veteran, like we said. Randy Couture is a veteran. Luis Bordenada, who was in the chorizo outfit, he's a veteran. And we had a lot of veterans behind the camera too, working in our crew. So there's I always try to make an effort to throw a bone to our
In fact, you mentioned World War Z, and our stunt coordinator Freddie Joe Farnsworth was, I believe, an advisor on that film as well. And he's a vet, and all our stunt guys were veterans, so it was really a great experience for us.
I bet. Dave, is there when you're playing a person, a character in the armed services, and having been in the armed services, do you feel some extra pressure to make sure that it is portrayed as accurately as possible?
Well, I think it's actually there's a unique challenge with that, and that's, in my opinion, a lot of the movies that are actually out there don't portray people in the military how they actually are, and they portray them how the public perceives them, or whatever the case is. And so, like, going in there and playing a role that's a military role or something, and then you're sitting there and you're going, this isn't at all how these guys would actually be, or anything like in the real world. So it kind of makes it, because you actually know that, and it's something that's so near and dear to my heart, it's kind of, it can be a challenge, in that kind of a thing, to separate the fantasy from the reality and something that's so close to me.
Exactly. And Mike, you being in the military and being the co-writer in this, I'm sure you tried to make the depiction of the armed services as realistic as possible, right?
Well, I haven't written anything that had any military roles in it. If I were, I would, because I think it bears. I think they should do it the right way. And I know that there's people out there that watch. Like I said, Freddie Joe, he advises on a lot of films, and he's an expert in the field, and he speaks all over the world on it. And you want those guys, you definitely want to make that stuff as, like Dave said, you want to make it real and not how people think it is. And the two of those things are not always together. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you want to be like that. I'll echo what Dave said on that one.
Now, Adrian, I have not seen the movie yet, and I'm kicking myself. I should have asked Max for a screener before we got to this interview. So I'm going to watch it when it comes out on the 10th. Adrian, your character in the movie, was it a physically intense role? Was it not, physically intensive? How would you describe the character that you play?
Stoned. Physically intense, not even a little bit.
Wait, who plays the doctor?
Adrian.
Yeah, so you're a stone doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, just jacked up on nitrous.
His character just got out of rehab when you meet him. He's
goes right back to the nitrous bottle.
It didn't work.
Yeah, there was no physical real demands. I mean, it was just well, at the very end,
there was some.
There was some stuff, but it wasn't physically taxing at all.
Now, Max, having a budget, like you said, around $2 million, this being one of your, early directings, you haven't directed much. This is like, what was it, your first or second directing? Second, okay. And working with a budget that's really nice for a horror movie for $2 million, did it allow you to do stuff that you didn't think would be possible in your second, directing gig?
One of the things about, in the grand scheme of things, it seems like more money than it is. It's when it comes to, when you do a movie, one of the things that you realize is that how much money you're going to fork over to unions, how much money is going to go to transportation departments and different, so that, when out of the gate, everybody sucks half of the budget up. And then what you have to do is you come in with a really grandiose idea of what you want to make, and then you start whittling it down to something that realistically fits within the parameters of what you have available. So
never enough money.
Yeah, those
vision is actually bigger than what we got on screen, and I know what we have on screen is a much bigger movie than you would picture for the money that we had to work with. So
okay.
And he still has the scar from where he had to sell the kidney to finish it.
But I'm working my way up. My first film was a $2.5 million budget. This was just under $2 million. Next one's $4 million. So I'm, it's small stuff.
Isn't it going in reverse? Aren't you supposed to be getting bigger budgets?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Adrian, how much time from when you started shooting to the end? How much time did you? We don't know how long I haven't seen the movie. I don't know how long your character lasts in the movie. It's the best way not to give out spoilers. I haven't seen it, but how much time did you spend on set for this film?
Well, like I said, let me say I was stoned. So 3 days really long, and other days seemed really short.
Even when they were actually really long.
Right. No, how many? I don't know, Max. That would be a Max question. How long was the shoot?
Yeah, how long did the shoot last, Max?
17 days.
Was it like 22 days or something like that?
17.
Was it?
Yeah.
And how hard is it to make a full featured film in 17 days? I mean, how many hours were you guys putting in a day?
A lot of hours.
Well, but oddly, there wasn't a lot of overtime. I mean, we were putting in 12-hour days. The thing that about having veteran actors come onto your production is that there's just, these guys came in, like I said, without any ego. They did exactly what they just fell right into the vision and to sync with everything. And so we didn't have to spend a lot of time working things out. Mike and Chris are former wrestlers. We actually found a group of wrestlers in New Mexico where we were shooting that we turned into zombies. These guys were practicing in a backyard for really, man. And
no, I believe you. You know how many people do that? A lot.
Yeah. Well, these guys are actually, they wrestle an independent circuit down there.
They were very good. They were well trained guys, especially for guys that were practicing in a backyard.
They helped train the two actors. Jason Coviello and Tim Stafford played this other tag team that we wrestle in the beginning, and they're wonderful. And they helped train them, and they picked it up really quick. And it's not the easiest thing to do, especially without jacking yourself up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Reading comments on the right here, they're pretty amazing. Way to go, Adrian. Max is so hot. Max is so hot. Max is so hot.
I wrote that, but we'll discuss.
Was that you?
I've been typing the whole time, Max. You finally read.
So Chris, moving forward, writing, do you see you and Mike working together since you have such good synergy together? Is there any thoughts of you maybe leaving Mike behind and doing something on your own?
No,
I would never hold him back.
Oh, yeah, okay. Like you'd need to. I love working with Mike. Again, we've written the second script. If I could do these things until the day, hopefully a long time from now, that I die, I would love that. That would just be the best thing in the world. Like everybody else, I certainly have ambitions to do different things. Although, I'm not probably as looking to stretch myself as much as Dave, like Dave mentioned. I'd be happy playing Stone Manson forever. If there was a job to do that, it would be fantastic. So I definitely want to continue writing. I really like writing with Mike. It seems so natural when we do it. Hopefully, we can move on to, A, continue to do this, and B, do some other projects, and it'll be as natural. I'm sure it will. But yeah, I definitely want to continue to do both and with Mike 100%.
Now, Mike, both of you guys have mentioned there's a second script. So you guys, I'm assuming you're talking about Midnight Massacre. You guys have already written up a sequel.
Yeah,
yes.
Called the Manson Brothers Satanic Vampire Death Match. We wrote it. It's been done. We were supposed to have it done by now. Max was going to direct it, and then we ran into some funding problems and COVID and all this other crap.
Yeah.
Lost our funding. So I was finally like, you guys have held me back long enough. I'm going to clown college.
But is this?
We're planning on doing it as soon as possible. As soon as we get the funding, we're going into production on it, and we'll have it done.
But is it a sequel to Zombie Massacre?
It is a sequel. It's not the zombies aren't going to go on. It's a different story. So what we want to do is have a series of films where every film the Manson brothers get into more hijinks with a different kind of horror element. We don't want to keep the same thing all the time, except for, a couple of the characters, like, like eight. I don't want to spoil it. I ain't going to say it. But so the Manson brothers will go on, and it'll just be a different messes that they're getting themselves into.
Man, those poor Manson brothers, living in a zombie world, satanic cults.
Yes, exactly. It's a satanic vampire cult, and the Manson brothers, they have to foil them. And they do it. They have a plan. It falls apart. And go ahead, Max. Sorry.
No, I said the vampires are all hot chicks.
Yeah, the vampires are all hot chicks. Let's
Really?
mention that it's a coven of hot chick vampires.
And Max, you directed that one as well, also, right?
Well, we haven't shot it yet, but I will.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And there's evil mimes, and there's one-eyed bartenders, and there's a Viking. There's all kinds of goofy characters in it. So
Typical film.
Okay. Yeah. Now, talking about zombie movies again for a little bit, the mortality rate with the characters is not very good. in favor of Adrian and David here. You know, I'm sorry, guys. I haven't seen the film, but I don't think your characters have such a happy ending in this. I'm not spoiling anything. I haven't seen it.
No.
Gotta wait and see. Gotta watch the film.
I'm gonna watch the film on the 10th. So in this,
I gotta tell you something, John. I was just sitting here thinking it's too bad Randy's not on this, but just to show you what a great guy he is. One night we were walking down the street, go to have a beer or whatever it was, and it was just the two of us, and we were crossing that street. You boys were, that little street that long past the church, that street that goes down, whatever. Yeah. So we're walking down to one of those bars. And as we're walking, it's just the two of us. And I'm looking, I see about 30 feet ahead of us, about to cross the street. There's a couple of local tough guys. They're kids, but they're fanned out a little bit, and they're kind of like, they got that going on, Yeah. And they're eyeballing us, right? And they're like, and we're walking across the street. They're coming this way. We're going this way. And they're fanning out a little bit, like they're going to take up the street. And I'm like, you guys, do you have any fucking idea what you're, And Randy sees them too, but without breaking a stride, he kind of hooks his arm around mine and gently encourages me to give them as much room as they want.
Well, that was nice.
And they're like, yeah, I told you a bunch of, and I was thinking, he kept talking and telling a story, but I kept thinking, what a gentleman,
Yeah.
It's funny because Mark Dennis has a similar story. I wonder if it's Randy. Does he attract this shit?
Well, I don't know, but it was just like one of those moments where I thought, wow, that's the way to go, the high road. Just give them, and they kept going as if they were,
like they had won out and they got the best of you and all that crap.
Yeah, they made the two old guys move off to the side.
There was a funny, there was a night for some reason I had filmed in the morning or something, and then I got wrapped out for the day. And so Randy, Boz, and I were all off that evening. So we all decided we're going to go get dinner and go to a bar and have some drinks or whatever. The three of us do. So we go to dinner and everything. And Boz and Randy are the nicest guys in the world. The most lethal teddy bears that you'll ever, kind of meet. But I take a picture, we're getting ready to walk into this bar, and I turn around and snap a selfie with the three of us, and I send it to Max while he's still directing on set, and I say, a Navy SEAL and two UFC legends walk into a bar, ... finish the joke. And he replies, he goes, please no.
Well, hold on. I got to tell you one more thing. When I think it was the night before or the night after, Dave, we went back to your car and you were going to give us a ride. I can't remember. And I'm in the back seat, and we're doing about 140 in a school zone.
Don't say that.
And I'm thinking, well, if we do get pulled over, I'm not driving. But I got these two knuckleheads in the front. I can't wait to see what the cop says. We didn't, but I just remember thinking, wow, if I'm going to get pulled over, I'm happy those two are in the front with,
Oh, it was the safest movie set ever, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, this hour has just flown by. It's been, the fun that you guys must have had and are still having with this film, it's just, it's something special. And, I'm glad all you guys got to share in it. It's been an absolute, just beyond a treat talking to you guys, getting to hear your stories. The movie, Mike, I'm going to screw it up. Say the title of the movie.
The movie is The Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre. It comes out September 10th in selected theaters on iTunes, Vudu, Amazon, YouTube, VOD everywhere. You can catch us at Max Martini LA, at C Margettis, at Real Mike Carey, at Official David Meadows, and at Adrian Pazdar on Instagram, and also at Manson Brothers the Movie. And visit us at mansonbrothers.com for this cool merchandise.
Awesome. I'll be watching it on the 10th. I'm sure a lot of our audience will be watching it as well. Everybody just looking at the chats, we had a nice big audience here tonight. They loved it. They loved listening to you guys. Thank you.
I just want to clear it up. It wasn't a school zone.
You can't take that back. You can't take that back.
It was 2 a.m, and it wasn't a school time.
School was not in session.
No.
Thank you so much, guys, for being on the show. It's been an absolute treasure.
Thanks to everybody who listened and watched.
Yeah, we had a really nice crowd tonight. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, on behalf of me and these 5 guys, stay safe and stay walking. All right, stay walking, guys. Good night.